Hello everyone. This is the fourth part of the story, Returning from the Magical World. Chapter 15, Go Home. Arthur, does that mean you agree? Bella chased after Arthur and asked to confirm. Let's meet her tomorrow, Arthur replied. Tomorrow is Sunday, so it's pretty free. Good. Bella smiled. As they passed her apartment, they stopped briefly. The woman picked up some clothes before following them to their home. Arriving there, they found Isabel already home. She was lying on the couch, still in her work clothes. Her eyes were still open, so seeing them coming, she immediately stood up. Arthur, Carla, you all right? She asked hurriedly, not even noticing Bella's existence. Before Arthur and Carla could answer Isabel's question, Bella suddenly answered it for them. Auntie, there were 7 people who tried to attack us, but do you know what happened? Some roots suddenly came out from under the ground, binding them so they couldn't move at all. Isabel, who finally noticed her presence, turned her gaze towards her. She spontaneously said, Bella? If she came here, she wouldn't be surprised, but it was clear she was talking about magic, something that should be their family's secret. Don't worry, Aunt, everything is under control, Arthur said. Isabel breathed a sigh of relief, wiping her slightly sweaty forehead. Mom, keep this, it will make it easier for you to understand spells. Carla handed one of the black flowers to her mother. The latter initially thought it was just a toy flower, but upon bringing it closer to herself, she immediately discovered it was unique. What's this? She asked, glancing at Arthur. It's called the Flower of Sorrow, Carla replied before starting to explain the flower's origins and uses. She said everything Arthur had said. After knowing that, Isabel said, it turns out that there is such a thing in this world. She sat down again, surveying the flower from every side while Carla and Bella went up to the second floor. As they disappeared, she asked Arthur while gesturing for her to sit down. Is it all right that girl knows about this? No problem, the secret won't leak as long as I don't allow it, Arthur replied. Isabel nodded hearing that. Then what did you do to the people who tried to kidnap Carla? I freed them. Arthur began to explain what had happened, including their backgrounds and things they had seen in Alaska. Isabel seems to only care about the latter. By the way, Aunt, what is the God Eye organization like? Asked Arthur. They? Isabel shook her head before replying, well, they are made up of ancient families who always wanted the world to be under their control. In terms of control, they are indeed the greatest, but in the end, we live in the modern world, there are many strong people appearing in various places. They do control the core of the economy, but they can't do as they please, can only do things in the dark. Have you ever heard of them being related to Magus? There are too many rumors about them written on the internet, whether those things are true or not, no one knows for sure including me. I see. Arthur stopped talking about that, he then asked how her understanding was of the spell he had given her. I still don't understand anything, Isabel replied. She took out the paper on which the spell was written, showed it to Arthur and pointed at several places on the paper. Then, she started asking question after question. Rock and the others returned to their apartment after some time walking around the city to heal their mental health, which has been badly shaken. None of them dared to speak about it, and in fact neither would they be able to. When they entered the apartment, they found a tall young man, Alex, lying relaxed on the sofa, watching TV while smoking and drinking. Their arrival didn't make him change his position. He just looked at them and asked, is that done? No problem, right? I think I want to beat someone up, Ben said. Me too, added Barbara. She picked up a baseball bat beside the door. Let's do it. Cora went first. Alex got confused, so he sat up. He wanted to ask what they were talking about, but Rock suddenly threw a baseball at him. It landed right on his cheek. Die. Ben and Cora jumped together and kicked the confused young man's face. Chapter 16, Go to a Party. Arthur continued to guide his aunt so her understanding got faster. Within an hour, the woman seemed to have found a path in front of her. Even though the path was full of various obstacles, at least she already knew where to go. Your talent is quite good, Aunt. At this rate, within a few days you should be able to master the first stage of this spell and start forming your spiritual core, Arthur said as his aunt put the spell paper back in her clothes pocket. Yes, if you continue to teach me every day, replied Isabel. Maybe I'll be busier later, but I'll take the time to help you. Arthur cares for his aunt more than anyone. If he builds a power, he will make her the second strongest. A faint smile appeared on the woman's lips after hearing his words. Your change in personality makes me a little uncomfortable, but thankfully, you're still my dutiful nephew. Her hands suddenly moved, stroking Arthur's hair. The latter was a bit uncomfortable, so he cleared his throat softly. He might be more open now with body contact, but it was hard for him to accept that kind of treatment that was basically for a child. By the way, can you accompany me tonight? She asked. Where to? Asked Arthur. He found it strange that his aunt rarely went out at night except for urgent work. My friend's new restaurant opening party, replied Isabel. I think this is the first time we've been invited to such a party. Arthur couldn't help but find out more. It's not like that. Isabel shook her head while leaning her back. It's quite often. I just never come. You know, sometimes there are people who spoil my mood. Arthur rolled his eyes at her answer. He easily concluded that she was brave now because he would take care of her. Seeing his expression, she added, I'm not taking advantage of you, I just want to introduce you to the elites of this city. At least 90% of them will help you once they find out you're my nephew. What do you think about this? That's a great idea, maybe I should take a look too, Arthur replied. Good, we will leave at 19:00. After chatting with his aunt, Arthur went to the second floor, towards his room. Carla's bedroom door opened as he walked by and he found the two girls sitting on the couch writing. Here, both of them are only wearing shorts and tight tank tops so that some of their bodies are exposed. Their smooth white thighs easily catch any man's eye. Plus their almost exposed upper breasts, they could almost be described as naughty. However, this was a house and they were in the room, so you couldn't think of them that way. The only thing that bothered Arthur was the door to the bedroom opening. Usually it is in closed condition. Bella waved her hand at Arthur as he gazed into the room, revealing her armpit that had nothing but pure white skin. She looked like she wanted to say something but stopped because Arthur didn't stop his steps. He was literally just passing by, Bella said, her eyes frozen. This was her idea of leaving the bedroom door open. Carla was a bit disapproving at first, but she might as well have wanted to see Arthur's reaction. I told you, he's a good man, Carla said to Bella. A good man have passion too. Sigh, if he comes in and closes the door, things might get quite tense in here. You're getting crazier. I'm aware, but this is really out of control, seems right, 18 years is the limit. Your mind will be messed up if you're still a virgin at this age. You must feel the same way, right? No. Do not lie. Bella took Carla's hand, looked deep into her eyes, and continued, look, your skin is so warm. In his room, Arthur spent the time meditating, absorbing spiritual energy to strengthen his spiritual core. He barely realized how much time had passed. When he opened his eyes, the sky was already dark. He clenched his fists as he stood up, took a deep breath, and exhaled hard enough to cause the air to vibrate. Then, he stretched his body so that his bones creaked. But after that, he sat down, relaxed while writing something on a piece of paper. This is a spell for Bella. About 20 minutes later, he went to take a shower. He took a long bath, using enough soap so that his body gave off a nice scent. After taking a shower, he put on clothes. Just like this afternoon, he was wearing a black shirt again, but a little nicer. When he came out of the room, Carla and Bella also came out. They still wore tank tops, but with trousers. Both of them were surprised by Arthur's neat appearance. Arthur, where are you going?" Bella couldn't help but ask. "Just for a walk," Arthur answered, taking a step towards the stairs while handing Bella the spell paper he had just made. Isabel came out of her room, which was on the other side of the floor. This time, her hair was put up in a neat bun and she wore a long, quite tight black dress and quite extravagant high heels, a look so flashy that it would easily make people think that she was a queen. "Mom, where do you want to go?" Carla asked with a frown. First Arthur and now her mother, clearly they weren't dressed like that just for a normal walk. Chapter 17, Anna. Isabel smiled as she replied, "Just to a party for a bit, don't worry, the food is already on the table." "Arthur, let's go." The two descended to the first floor under the gazes of Carla and Isabel. They even went to the side of the fence to look down. On the first floor, Isabel picked up her bag that was lying on the couch. She opened it and took out a gray tie. "Get over here." She motioned for Arthur, who was knitting his brows, to come closer. Arthur thought that he would stand out even more with the tie, but in the end, he chose not to refuse. His aunt tucked the tie over his shirt, which matched perfectly. She tidied up some of the mess, then took 2 steps back to study his appearance. With curved lips, she nodded in satisfaction. "I'm sure there are not many young men as handsome as you in this city," she said. After saying that, Sue grabbed his hand and pulled him out of the house. "It seems your mother loves Arthur more than you," Bella said to Carla with a playful smile. Carla pouted a little at her words. She didn't answer, just tossed her long hair before taking a step towards the stairs. When he arrived at the yard, Arthur found a car whose engine was already running. 2 men in black suits were standing by the car. Arthur didn't know who they were, but he knew they were police. As a congresswoman, his aunt could order a few policemen to escort her at any time. Seeing them, each of the men opened the right and left rear doors of the car. Their expressions were quite stiff, but they still greeted Isabel professionally. Arthur watched them for a moment before climbing into the car. He concluded that the 2 policemen were reasonably trained, but they still weren't as strong as Rock and his gang, who were obviously very experienced. They helped close the car doors before getting into it. "Where are we going, Mrs. Isabel?" asked the man sitting in the driver's seat. "Veteran Street 03, Isabel replied. Arthur spontaneously looked in a certain direction, hearing his aunt's answer. In terms of economy, it was the highest valued street. Many luxury goods shops stood there. The journey there takes about 25 minutes. The street is so wide that 10 cars can line up simultaneously. Footbridges can be found every 50 meters, each decorated with colorful lights. Many young people take pictures and make videos there. Along the way, Arthur also saw many cafes and entertainment venues. The former was visited by young people while the latter was visited by exhausted-looking adults. Arthur hardly ever came to this street, so even though he was a native of this town, he still felt out of place. "Stop right there." Just moments after arriving at that street, Isabel headed for a certain building. It has 5 floors and old European design. The lights in the building weren't too bright, more of a serene feel. What stands out from the building compared to other buildings is the very wide courtyard. Considering how expensive land here is, daring to waste such a large piece of land proves the owner's wealth. One after another, luxury cars entered the courtyard, all over 100,000 euros. Isabel's car is practically the cheapest. However, because of its license plate, the other car slightly slowed down as if wanting Isabel's car to enter first. There were even security guards who came and helped direct the way. In the end, it stopped at a corner which was clearly a dedicated parking lot. The 2 men quickly got out to open the car doors. Arthur went down first, he then glanced towards the entrance of the building. A middle-aged woman with curly chestnut hair came out of it, walking towards Isabel's car with curved lips. She is quite eye-catching with her very luxurious red dress. Although her body is not very tall, her figure is really charming because of her slender waist and plump buttocks. Several men looked like they wanted to whistle at her, but they held back because behind her, several large bodyguards were following. Isabel. She called out to Isabel with open arms. Arriving in front of her, she instantly hugged her, kissing her cheek before looking her up and down. I didn't expect you to come to my party. It seems that there will be blessings pouring down on this restaurant, she said. The people around them immediately took an interest in them. Many were talking about Isabel because every one of them knew who she was. Oh. The woman, Anna, glanced at Arthur, who was approaching them. He's my nephew, Arthur. Isabel immediately introduced Arthur. So he's your nephew? Isabel's gaze traveled from Arthur's face to his feet and back to his. Her lips pressed together for a moment before curving into a smile. She continued while looking at Isabel, your Wilson family does have superior DNA. Isabel smiled faintly at her compliment. She then said to Arthur, she's Anna, my schoolmate. If you want to know who owns the most restaurants in this city, then she's the one. Arthur's reaction naturally didn't change much. He gave the woman a light nod without saying anything. And he did it without giving the impression that he was embarrassed to speak. People who saw him were made to think that he just didn't speak because he felt it was unnecessary. Of course, Anna was surprised because she didn't remember any young people behaving like that in front of her. No matter how ruffian or how high their status was, they usually acted like a child in awe of her. Why don't you greet me? She asked, unable to contain her curiosity. Arthur calmly replied, I already did. His earlier nod could be considered as a greeting. Anna, being an intelligent woman, understood that, and this made her not know whether to laugh or cry. In the end, she looked at Isabel, who only smiled at Arthur's behavior. Isabel, I think you have some mistakes in educating your nephew, she said. Where are the mistake points? Isabel asked. Or are you saying that being arrogant to the weak and fawning over the strong is the proper way of education? Her words this time made some people almost flinch. It is common knowledge that it is the culture of the elite, something that everyone knows but no one says. Anna cleared her throat softly, looking around a bit worriedly. There were some high-status guests. If Isabel kept talking about their bad culture, there might be an uproar. She said, Come on, Mrs. Isabel, please come in and enjoy our restaurant. She pretended to be formal, so Isabel laughed sarcastically. After that, Arthur and Isabel followed Anna into the restaurant building. Chapter 18, Agarwood. The first floor of the building turned out to be just a lobby, where the waiters greeted guests. If this is a hotel, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a restaurant. No waiters approached Arthur and Isabel because Anna was beside them. She led them to one of the 4 staircases there. Each of them was in a corner of the hall, had a curved shape and was made of ironwood. Once past the stairs, Arthur heard melodious music. It was slow, but as if it could invite people to dance. On the second floor, only then did he see a row of dining tables. There were quite a number of people there already, some eating and some chatting. Anna's arrival immediately attracted attention. And when looking at her, people couldn't help but look at the person beside her. Realizing that it was Isabel, their gazes finally focused only on her. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Congresswoman, Isabel Wilson, and her nephew, Arthur Wilson. Anna said in a fairly loud voice and was immediately greeted with grabbing applause. There was one group that waved to Isabel. They were beauties her age, consisting of 3 people. Anna led Isabel and Arthur to the group table. As soon as they arrived at the table, the 3 women stood up, taking turns hugging Isabel. Oh my God, I can't believe we can all get together, said the first woman to hug Isabel. She wore a long blue off-the-shoulder dress, had long blonde hair that fell past her thighs. Her figure was tall and elegant, easily arousing men's desires. Anna told Arthur that the woman's name was Charlotte, a noble lady from England. The second woman was an Asian woman. Her hair wasn't very long, it looked like Isabel's hair except that it was jet black. She was only wearing a short dress layered with a brown coat, looking like she had come to this party without a plan. Her name is Chu Yueli. When she was young, she lived in Europe. Even though she now lives in Asia, she still comes to Europe quite often. As for the third woman, Arthur recognized her because she was a well-known celebrity, including one full of controversy. She has been married 3 times to conglomerates and all 3 ended in divorce. Her name is Mia. Her beauty didn't surpass the others even though she was a celebrity because the other 2 were also top beauties. She had slightly curly auburn hair, a pair of thick red lips, a charming nose and chin. Her figure was quite elegant, giving the impression that she would suit any outfit or style. After cuddling with Isabel, the 3 women looked at Arthur. However, before they could say anything, Arthur suddenly said to Isabel, "Aunt, I want to take a walk first." He nodded at the 3 women, then took a step. Apart from feeling uncomfortable joining a group of middle-aged women, Arthur left because something caught his eye. "Isabel, what's wrong with your nephew?" Charlotte couldn't help but ask after seeing Arthur walk away without greeting her. She remembered when her son met Isabel, he greeted her, complimented her and so on. "TSK. You don't know, he didn't even say anything to me," Anna replied before Isabel could answer. "Really?" Mia asked with an expression of disbelief. Here, there were 3 of them, but below before, Anna was alone. "Maybe he's just shy," Chu Yueli said. "He doesn't look like it," Charlotte replied, looking at Arthur who was walking calmly through the crowd. "My nephew has the attitude of a king. If you want him to greet you, raise your levels first." Isabel answered with a faint smile. She openly defended Arthur. Meanwhile, Arthur arrived at a corner where there was smoke that was almost invisible but emitted a very good aroma. The smoke comes from burning brown wood on a plate. Staring at the wood, Arthur said, "What a waste, burning agarwood just to get its fragrance. Agarwood generally has to be dried first and then burned to release its fragrant aroma. This is naturally a waste. Many of its trees are cut down each year to meet demand. If not controlled, it is only a matter of time before the trees meet the same fate as the endangered animals that are on the verge of extinction." However, Arthur has a trick where he can release the fragrance of agarwood without having to burn it. It wasn't difficult, he just needed to instill a spell into the agarwood branch and make it absorb spiritual energy. The spiritual energy absorbed by the branch could release its fragrance, even better than burning it. When he saw the wood, Arthur had an idea that he thought was very good. He could buy some tree branches of the agarwood and then make them give off their fragrance without having to burn them. After that, he can sell them again, which is sure to sell well because everyone prefers permanent items to temporary ones. Of course, money wasn't Arthur's primary goal in doing so. Agarwood is very expensive because of their fragrance, but there is much more unique to this wood in the perception of magic. One is that they are very strong when they manage to become a plant demon and form an army. Arthur thought that if he sold an agarwood branch to someone who was rich, he could pass the care on to that person. When it managed to become a plant demon, he could pick it up again. It wouldn't be difficult. He could tie up the agarwood branches first by incorporating his spirituality into the agarwood so that when it started to gain consciousness, images of his figure would fill its mind, to the point where it thought of him as its god. "Do you like this?" A question suddenly appeared behind Arthur as he was thinking about his plan. This marks the end of part 4 of the story, Returning from the Magical World. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.